You're listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, episode number 36, Cooking with Your Kids with Jody Danon. We all know it's important to cook with our kids. Kids learn a lot in the kitchen, but it's not always easy to get them in there. I talked today with Jody Danon, a registered dietitian. She helps us understand why family meals are important, how to get kids in the kitchen, and also gives us some clues into what she has done with her own kids that have helped them become the little chefs that they are today. You can find today's show notes over at www.jillcastle.com/036. That's 036 for episode number 36.
Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey there, welcome back to The Nourished Child. I'm Jill Castle, a registered dietitian, childhood nutrition expert, and host of this podcast, which is a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of raising healthy ones inside and out. Today we are talking with Jody Danon, a registered dietitian and a mom of two wonderful kids and creator of the Create Kids Club, which is a website that helps families eat together one more meal each week if possible, and helps children and their parents understand the importance of getting into the kitchen to cook healthy meals. Her website offers recipes, ideas, and encouragement for getting the family around the dinner table on a regular basis. I'm super excited to have her on the show today. She has created a product called Lunch Bites, and as she says, it's her passion project. Lunch Bites are a deck of cards in a tin case, and each of the cards has a positive sentiment about nutrition, an educational component to them, or just a love note, if you will, that you can stick in your child's lunchbox. So it's a nice little addition to the lunchbox that reminds children that their moms and dads are thinking of them and loving on them, even though they are apart. She will get into that and describe those to us in much greater detail in this interview. For me, life has been nice and relaxing lately. I'm enjoying the summer and working, but trying to get some fun and sun and relaxation weaved into all the work at the same time, which I think is really, really important, especially when you're running your own business. It's so easy to work all the time around the clock and never shut things down. So I've been working really hard this summer to put an end to my day and to schedule in some fun during the week, because this is the time to do it. The weather's beautiful, can be outside every day, and I'm sure you're all feeling it as well. Related to this interview, I just want to remind you, if you have an athlete, a young athlete, I have a couple of ebooks that are recipe-oriented that might help you. One is a breakfast recipe ebook, and the other is a dinner ebook. So I've compiled fast, healthy, easy recipes that not only help your child grow and develop, but specifically for the athlete, contain those important components of carbohydrate and protein. You can find those e-guides or e-books on my website, www.jillcastle.com/books authored by Jill Castle. So I have a whole bunch of resources there, and you can find those two there quite easily. Let's get into the interview with Jody. Here she is. Hey, Jody, welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast.
Hi, Jill. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here today. I know that I have been wanting to have you on the show for a while and love seeing all the different things that you're doing, and can't wait to share with my audience all the things that you've created and just your story.
Thank you. That makes me so happy to hear, and I'm honored to be able to be on your show and share this with your audience. It's really exciting for me to be able to do that.
Well, before we get digging into all the different things you've got going on, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you're all about?
Sure. Well, my name is Jody Danon, and I'm a registered dietitian and currently the owner and author behind Create Kids Club, which is a blog for busy families. I focus on those desiring quick, healthy meals, but also within there, my true passion is getting kids cooking and having them just experience and play with food. So that is truly my passion. And how I got there, I have a background in, well, I guess I could start back in college. One of my jobs, my first internships throughout the summer of college was working at a camp for kids out in California. And I was able to teach children about nutrition then. And maybe that was what kind of sparked me to have an interest in that well before I ever had kids of my own, because I enjoyed my time there so much. But after graduating, my first job was in dialysis, which I actually really loved as well. And I worked with diabetes and weight management and all the things that go along with dialysis. But then I had kids of my own. And after my daughter, I decided to stay home. So I took some time off to raise my two kids. During that time, I did sneak in some cooking classes for kids that I developed and was working with really little kids, like 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old children, just getting them to play with their food and get their hands messy. And that was just so exciting to me. But my kids entered school and an opportunity opened up for me to work in school nutrition at the school that my kids were at. So I planned the menus for the hot lunch program and ran that program for the preschoolers through 8th graders. Eventually that kind of fizzled out and changes were made at the school that I was not able to continue on. And it was time for me to do something else. And that's where Create Kids Club came into play. I wanted to share the recipes and the fun that I was doing with my kids and kids around me and try to share that with more people. So that's the long version of kind of how I've gotten to be where I am now.
Well, I love it. I love that your tagline is healthy habits one bite at a time. And I love that because it really is just one bite at a time, one day, one meal at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And the years go by and hopefully by the end of it all, we all have done an excellent job of raising healthy eaters and kids who have healthy habits and who enjoy eating.
Absolutely. And I think my time working in the school system was a huge eye-opener to me on how different kids eat. How between the picky eaters and the not so picky eaters and what moms are packing for their kids, both on all spectrums, the fantastically healthy and the ones that are not at all. And, it was very interesting to see, kind of behind the scenes in a big way of how kids are being fed and raised and what I could do to help make that a little bit better.
Did any of that insight change the way that you feed and nourish your own children?
I guess I just stuck with what I was doing because I was noticing it's working. It's just introducing, like you said, one bite at a time. And some days it works really well and other days it doesn't. And my kids are now 11 and 9, so we're not past the turning their noses up at dinner, but it's certainly much easier than when they were little. So yeah, I think my kids were on a good path. One is easier to feed than the other. Still continues that way today, but we just keep plugging along. And I guess, there's a lot of differences in the families, and I was happy to see where we fell, I guess. That's what I got.
Yeah, I felt, I've done a variety of things in my career too. And I helped one of my children's schools revamp their health and wellness program. And so we got a lot of feedback from the parents when we started to change the menus and include certain things for parties, develop policies around that. And it's very interesting because nutrition is really personal and it can be a bone of contention for some families, a real struggle for other families. And yet then there are those families that are sort of easygoing about all of nutrition. It's fascinating how different people are and what their background is and where their viewpoints come from.
Absolutely. Yes, we had a similar thing at my school too. And it's very passionate subject for many people. So which is good. But yes, there's lots to consider, I guess, in those factors. And I think it goes back to how a lot of people were raised too, or maybe if they want to change, be completely opposite of the way they were raised, or I don't know. It's a whole separate topic that would be so interesting to delve into, how people, how they develop their theories on nutrition and how they feed their kids.
Yeah, so let's actually segue into that question a little bit, because I do ask all of my guests on the show about their own feeding history, their own childhood, and what they learned from that, what they liked, what they didn't like, how it influences their own viewpoint on nutrition and even on feeding their kids. So let's talk about that. Where do you stand with that? What was your experience?
Sure. Well, I always feel blessed with my childhood. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she cooked homemade meals all the time. Now, they weren't fabulous gourmet homemade meals, but I'm from Wisconsin, so they were solid Midwestern meals that I was raised on, and I will always remember that. I certainly did not care for them all, nor did my 3 brothers and sisters. There was 4 of us. So my poor mom went through a lot of grief on listening to us, I'm sure, complain, but she did not feed us extra meals. We did not get to be side cooks. She wasn't cooking anything besides the meal that she made, but she did make a meal every day. When we would go camping or on family trips, that's the sort of vacations we did as a child. She would pack all of our meals. We would stop at a wayside and open up the picnic basket and eat the homemade sandwiches and fruit, the things that she packed. So we were not a family that went out to eat very often, ever. It was on birthdays that we went out to eat. And that was her way of saving money, I think, and also maybe the way that she was raised. So she was passing that on to us. So that certainly sticks with me and what I do with my kids, because those memories, and even though I grumbled about it growing up, it certainly made a mark on my life now. However, she was also on Weight Watchers her whole life. But I'm also thankful she never complained about her weight or talked about her weight. She did not pass that along to us at all. So my sisters and I talk about how thankful we are that she didn't, because that could have went a different way as well. So many things I think I picked up from my mom that were very good in that direction, which I do with my kids. So I do try to cook homemade meals as much as I can. I mean, in this day and age, our kids are involved in everything. So my family is just like others, trying to find a quick way to get some healthy meals on the table when you're running between school, piano, and then on to the basketball practice that's right after. So trying to get creative is a little different, because I certainly wasn't that active as a kid. You know, my mom didn't have to run quite as much. Granted, there was more kids, but yeah, so I think she really influenced my life now. So I hope she knows that. I try to tell her that and try to stick with some of the recipes that she made when I was little. So
that's great. That's great. I think we all have. I'm actually from the Midwest too. I don't know if you know that, but I grew up in Indiana, and I always say I'm a meat and potatoes girl. That's how I was raised, and always a square meal. That was always used. We're having a square meal for dinner, is what my mother would say. And there's something very solid about sitting down at the family table with your family every night of the week and being expected to be there and having those home cooked meals. And I think sometimes today's parents think that those home cooked meals need to be really gourmet, as you said, really fancy. And I really hold the thought that they don't have to be that way. In fact, I encourage a lot of my clients, just put a bowl of fruit on the table, put a platter of, carrot sticks or some fresh vegetable that, your children will be inclined to eat, that it doesn't have to be so fancy. And in fact, kids like it when it's not fancy. They like to be able to identify what's on the table and be able to know that they like it and not worry about the black flecks or the green things inside their dishes. What's your take on that? Is that something that you sense as well?
Oh, absolutely. And that is how I was raised. Well, my mom probably did cook side dishes and such, but I don't. So I do exactly what you say. Usually we have a side, which would be either a cooked or raw vegetable. It is not usually mixed with anything else. It's plain. I love the steamed vegetables you can buy in the bags. I love the Costco big, huge bags that you can steam in your microwave on your own. Yeah, keeping it simple. I think my kids like it better that way. They can see what it is. Also, we have fruit for dessert the majority of the time if they want dessert. They don't grumble or complain about it. And it's also a really good way to get them involved with helping make the meal. They will chop up the fruit and put it in really fun parfait glasses. They're actually like ice cream dishes, but that's what we serve our fruit in at dinner. So that would be another suggestion I always offer to families is make the dishes fun for the kids. If it looks more enticing and exciting, they're more inclined to eat it, but also when they're hungry. So I like to set out the things that you were mentioning, the fresh vegetable sticks or something, because if they're on the table and those kids are hungry, they're going to eat it. And so.
Yeah, definitely. So what are I know you mentioned in your introduction that, you really wanted to, with your business, create fast family meals for other families. And I feel like that is exactly what people need. They need those healthy, nutritious family meals that are quick to prepare, that aren't too complicated, and that they know that their children will eat. So what are your tips related to that for listeners that could be looking for something new and fresh in terms of ideas around family meals?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of them. I would recommend, like we were just discussing, keeping it simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. I know when I look through other people's recipes and magazines or whatnot, if the ingredient list goes on forever, I'm not making it. Even though a lot of those things are many times spices, it just gets overwhelming to me. So I like short ingredient lists. I love using my crock pot. I depend on that 50% of the time during busy weeks. Those recipes, if they start reading my blog, I talk about it a lot, where I used to think they were horrible and the recipes didn't turn out and my husband didn't like them, but it was just I wasn't utilizing it properly and using recipes that we actually enjoyed. I stopped using all the canned soups and that sort of thing that here in the Midwest is really common to go into the crock pot. One of my most popular recipes on the website is the chicken thighs in the crock pot, and it simply has spices and a bottle of beer, which the alcohol cooks off, so that isn't a fun for the kids, but it's so easy, but it's my kids' favorite, and it seems to be really popular. It's so easy. So super simple, fast ideas, pre-planning, knowing what you're going to do a little bit in advance, searching through all the boards on Pinterest now where we have so many different options classified for us in simple meals that we can look through, trying to find the healthy ones. But I guess my go-to thing would certainly be learning to utilize your crock pot, putting it in before you go to work or in the morning, and it's ready for you when you get home. Generally, those recipes include, a lot of the time, the vegetables right in it, so you don't have to make something separate.
Yeah,
so those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, I love the crock pot too. A couple of my kids have flown the nest. They're off to college, so I don't have a big family that I have to cook for anymore. But when they were all home, the 6 of us, I did the crock pot a lot, especially when I was working. And it is so incredibly easy. I love the chicken thighs with the bottle of beer. I am going to definitely have to hunt that recipe down, and I'll make sure to share it in the show notes for the listeners. But I am all about simple and fast and nutritious. I just feel like I agree with you. If I see a recipe that has multiple steps and more than, 7, I go really simple, 7 or 8 ingredients, I am so not making it unless I have a whole weekend that I want to spend the day cooking. And I can tell you, generally, I don't ever feel that way unless I'm hosting a dinner party. I don't want to spend a whole lot of my day in the kitchen cooking. So I'm always looking for, high impact, high flavor, super simple to prepare.
Absolutely. That is the key. And it is out there. I think people get so overwhelmed because you see so many recipes with these big ingredient lists that they get frustrated and just buy the prepackaged items. So I recommend that there is easy recipes out there. And on my website, if I share something with more than the 7 or 8 ingredients, because I am with you, it's worth it. It's delicious and easy because I really don't do anything complicated or challenging gourmet. That's just not what into my kids, that's just not what we do at my house. And that's not what I share with my audience either.
Great to know. So if you had to choose your top 3 to 5 recipes that you make over and over and over again for your family, big winners, what would they be?
Gosh, enchiladas for sure, because you can use leftovers from anything and put that in an enchilada and bake it, and they love it. So any leftover pork, beef, chicken, beans, refried beans, roll it up, put some cheese in it, and there's a delicious enchilada sauce that I have on my website that takes 10 minutes to make homemade. Super easy. Anyways, you can put that on anything, and my family will eat it. Big enchilada fans. They love stir fries. That's another easy one where you can kind of open your fridge, take out what you have in there, and make it a meal. Tacos, obviously. I think everybody is probably on the taco front. My kids love spaghetti. I don't so much, so I like making it into a spaghetti baked casserole. I like it better that way, and they do, and it makes more, so I like that it can be extended into several meals that way. They're big into soups. They really like any kind of soup that I could make. I make them all in the crock pot.
That's awesome. My kids love soup too. I don't know. I don't know many kids that really enjoy soup, but my children love soup as well. I wonder if it's because we make it in the crock pot and we just have been doing it for so long.
Right. They just grew up that way and are used to it. Maybe because, usually it doesn't matter what kind it is. They'll eat it. So
My kids, I have a recipe on my website, potato leek soup. You make it in the crock pot. And it is by far my most popular recipe. And my kids still, to this day, ask me to make it. If I say, I think we're having soup, are we having potato leek soup? This is, my kids are adults now. It's so funny.
Well, I'm going to have to look that one up too, because that sounds delicious.
It is ridiculously simple.
Love it.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So I love that whole idea. That really speaks to me. Fast family meals really speaks to me. But you also you've created a product, which I have in my hands, called Lunch Bites. Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. They're like my passion project. So it kind of started when my kids were entering school and could read. So, around the first grade area, I started writing them notes. And at the beginning of the school year, I think us moms come up with new lunch boxes and things to entice them in their lunch to get them to eat the healthy foods that are surrounding these items. At least that's my theory. But they would complain that their friends have, all the cookies and cakes and ho-hos and that sort of thing, which is just not something that I'm going to pack in their lunchbox. We certainly eat those things at my house. Don't get me wrong. It's just a treat. So I'm not putting that in their lunchbox every day. But I did buy a bag of Hershey Kisses and would put one kiss in their lunchbox with the handwritten notes. Well, eventually the Hershey Kisses ran out and the note cards kind of dwindled off as the year progressed. And they did not complain about the Hershey Kisses stopping, but they did complain about the note stopping. They missed those notes. So at that point, I figured, this is really great. Then I started working at the school and I could visually see them with their notes and how they would share them with the class, the kids around them, and they'd be asking what they said and that sort of thing. So anyways, that's how I came up with the idea of, if I could slide in some nutrition information on a little note in a fun way, what could happen? Let's do some positive sayings and jokes and facts, but all revolved around food and nutrition. And that's what Lunch Bites are. They have, on one side, I could like to call it like sending them a little hug in their lunchbox. It's just something positive. Every kid likes to hear something nice said to them, or parts of them also encourage acts of kindness, things they could do suggested at school for a friend. Tell a friend that they like something they're wearing, or compliment your teacher, say thank you, that sort of thing. And on the back, there's fun jokes. There's fun food facts. All again revolved around that food and nutrition factor. And also I slid in there little cooking cards. So I took some of the favorite things that we like to do with my kids that a kid could take the card and completely do it all on their own in the kitchen to make a fun, healthy snack for themselves. So it's kind of all tied together into the little packet that we call Lunch Bites.
And so the idea is that you would put one card in your child's lunchbox and send them off, correct?
Yes, they're meant to go into lunch boxes, or this summer I've been using them in backpacks when the kids are going to camp, or they were at an overnight sleeping camp. You can tuck it into their suitcase, anything where they would find them to, just know that mom's thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they are meant to be disposable, but I wanted to make them so that they could go through multiple kids. Because you buy something, you want to use it a little bit. And I only have 2 kids, so I kind of pass mine off to somebody else because they hold up really well. So you certainly can use them for multiple kids, but I have to admit that the kids don't like to see the same card come through again. Mom, we've already read that one. Where's the new card?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I actually have them in my office, and I have one particular client of mine who comes in and likes to take them out every single time out of their little tin container, and he spreads them out, like he lays them each out. He reads each one and he lays it out on the couch, and he reads the next one, and he goes through the whole deck every time he comes in. I find it very interesting.
That's awesome to hear. I'm so happy.
Yeah, he really likes them, and I use them now. I mean, I use them in my kids' lunch boxes, but my kids are in high school, and they take a brown paper bag to school. They refuse to take a lunch box, so I don't want them to get thrown away. But so I use them now in my office when I'm working with clients, and play little games, read things on them. So it's a really cute, really, really cute offering to have available for families. I love the idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I figured, teaching kids about nutrition is not always the most exciting thing to a child. So my goal was to try to slide in little nuggets that might stick with them for a little while, but in a fun way.
Yeah. So what other things do you have going on? I noticed when I did my research about you, because we've never really met face to face yet.
No.
Yeah. So when I did my research, I noticed that you have 2 websites.
Well, I do. The Average RD is where I started at. Is that what you're, the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's when I started my sharing of recipes and trying to get involved in this space. I had started with the Average RD, and my goal was at that time trying to share that the average mom, the average person can do some really cool things. But over time, I realized I was really more interested in the kid stuff, sharing that, and that the name wasn't projecting what I wanted to do. So that website actually is no longer really under use at all anymore. So it all transferred over to the Create Kids Club.
Gotcha. And then you have also One More Meal Challenge. What's that all about?
Yes. The One More Meal Challenge I started months back, trying to encourage everybody at different stages. You talk about making homemade meals, and just within my family and friends, I have many who don't cook much at all. So talking to them about making a homemade meal every day would just probably overwhelm them, and they wouldn't do it. So I wanted to do a challenge for everybody. So if you weren't cooking at all, starting by making one meal for your family a week. And if you already were doing cooking dinner every day, then let's try adding in breakfasts or lunch or something to help make it just take yourself to the next level in which way. So I try to offer tips and guidance and recipes on how to do that for each family.
That's awesome. I love that idea. So are you providing sort of, through a blog post or through emails, how people can take this challenge, or what's it like to go through the challenge?
Sure. Yeah, it's all by email. It just comes into your inbox for right now. So if they sign up, there's a little tab on the website where you can, it says One More Meal Challenge. If you click on that and go through there, I have a little introduction video that kind of talks about what the goal with this challenge is and how you can be involved. And also then you can also register for it right there, and it's 100% free, and it's just one email that comes into your inbox a week with different suggestions and tips and recipes. And I always take feedback from people to see what they're interested in and try to shape it that way too, to help in the ways that the readers want.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So if you had to give your top tips or top insight for, feeding families, getting them to the table, having more meals at home, what would those tips be? What are some actionable items that they could do to really help them take it up a notch in terms of what they're doing currently?
Sure. For me, I think I would recommend to everybody is get your kids involved in getting that dinner meal or any meal on the table. It helps you because they're helping you get the meal together. But even the littlest of kids can sit at the counter and tear lettuce up for a salad or stir a sauce in nothing heated, I suppose, for those little kids. But there's many things that any age of kids can do. Now that my kids are getting older, they truly can make that dinner meal on their own if they wanted to, and they do sometimes. So I think that is the best thing, is just getting them in the kitchen with you, watching. You're teaching them how to cook and prepare these things. But the other benefits of getting those kids in there is that they're going to try new foods. They complain less about the meal on the table, even if it's not something they absolutely love, because they had a role in helping make it. If you watch kids, they are so proud to see what they can do and help and prepare. And even if they only take one bite of it, they took that one bite. So that was always my theory on getting kids playing with their food, because it doesn't mean they're going to instantly eat it, but usually they will smell it or taste it. So it helps very much in getting kids to try new foods. It teaches them math and reading and comprehension, all of those things in a simple way by reading recipes and helping. And I think it just sets up the basics for healthy eating in their future.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. That's awesome.
So,
yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that the downsides on that, it can be messy. And I know a lot of parents say that to me. They just don't want to take the time to have their kids in there and they make a mess. But I try to say, it's a little mess, and they can help you clean that up as well. The small mess is worth so much more than what the kids and yourself are getting out of it over time. As they become more comfortable in the kitchen and get older, they will really be helpful to you. And those meals, maybe on the night that you're trying to get a super quick dinner on the table is not the night to try this out, but those other nights, it's certainly worthwhile.
So I always try to remind parents that they're in it for the long game. And being on the other side, I have a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old. So I've raised them, through teenagerhood and launched them out into the world. And all I ever wanted was them to be able to take care of themselves, to be able to cook their own food, to be able to choose foods to make a balanced meal, to be able to regulate their sleep, their exercise. And I think that that's really what I find myself reminding other parents frequently, is that, you're not in it. It's not a short end game. It's not get your kids to eat something healthy today. It's really this long end game where it's every bite, every meal, every experience, and they all stack up to create what you hopefully are trying to create in a child, which is an independent adult.
Absolutely. And that's something I think many people don't think about, because they're thinking about today and survival today, and they're so busy that they don't think what they're creating when they're driving through the drive-through picking up dinner, because they have lots to do. And it's, what they do, maybe not intentionally so frequently, but each week turns into months, into years. And yes, if you don't make an effort to have a game plan on how to solve that, you won't have raised your kids to know how to take care of them as they go off. So that's a very, very good point.
Do you have, Jody, any burning frustrations with the world of nutrition today, or feeding a family, that you hear that that frustrates you as a professional or as a mom yourself?
Gosh, I guess in general, it's all the different fads that are out there that people get so worked up on fitting into, whether it's now the gluten-free craze or the low carb or the fat-free or the full fat or the, people make it so complicated and stress themselves out. And then I think throw their hands up because they're not sure how to make meals to fit into these categories. If there's a reason for some of those ideas, great. But if many times they're not, it's just what they're reading in the news that's popping up on their, social media, and they want to get involved. And I guess my point is keeping it simple and just eating those wholesome foods, the fruits, the veggies, the whole grains. You don't need to stress yourself out about all these different things that are popping in front of your eyes. That's not what you have to do just because other people are doing it. So I guess that's what frustrates me when I see so much and they're passing that along to their kids. So that's just something that is a little bothersome to me, I guess.
I think maybe sometimes as professionals, we can sort of see where that path goes down the road. And we know it's not a good place for a lot of kids. And it can be really frustrating because you want to, set the record straight or help inform a family to, maybe think about things a little bit differently. But people are where they are at. And as you mentioned in the early part of the show, we all come to where we are today from a background, from a history, and it all informs our attitudes and our practices and our belief systems around food and nutrition too. So it's quite interesting.
It really is. Yes, you are right. And it's hard to change people's opinions. So it's trying to figure out how to work with them if, they are really looking for help.
Well, Jody, it has been awesome to have you on the show. You are the creator of Create Healthy Kids and Lunch Bites and One More Meal Challenge. Where can my listeners find you?
Absolutely. They can visit the website at createkidsclub.com. We're also on Facebook at the same address, Create Kids Club. On Pinterest, same thing. Instagram, Create Kids Club. Twitter as well. I also have another Twitter account. It's Jody Danon RD. So that's the only one that's a little bit different than the rest. But yes, they can find me on all social media channels, and I would love to hear from everybody, or any questions or just hello would be great.
Well, I hope everybody goes and at very minimum checks out your quick, fast, and healthy family meal recipes and those lunch bite cards.
Yeah, and you can buy lunch bites right on the website, or you can find them on Amazon as well.
People will go visit Amazon and look for all of our products, yours and mine too.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
All right, Jody, thanks so much. Have a great day.
You as well, Jill. Thank you.
Well, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's show with Jody Danon. You can find her website over at createkidsclub.com, and that's where you can also find her lunch bites, cards, and her challenge called One More Meal Challenge. As always, it's great to have you here. Great to have you tuning in. The Nourished Child podcast is growing, which warms my heart. If you are a listener and you have not gone over to iTunes to write a review, I would just please ask you to do that. That is the way that everybody can start to find the Nourished Child and learn and benefit from the information and the experts that I share on this show. As always, I'm very happy and thankful that you joined me here today. And please be sure to give that child in your life, big or small, a loving squeeze today. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.